Hi, Lee. This is Mary Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. We saw you were on, so just we can hear you, so your audio sounds good. Emily, we see you came on. Can we do an audio check for you?
Yep, I'm here. Got me?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Director Silvera, we see you've joined. Can we do an audio check?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have Stacy and Emily on?
Yes, this is Stacy.
Yes.
Yes, it's Emily.
Director Pereira, can we do an audio check on you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. And Director Villalta, can we do an audio check for you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it sounds like we have everybody on board.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and call the session, this closed session at 2 p.m. This is a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Cal Government Code 54956.9D2, one matter. I will turn it over to counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's go back to item 2, public comment real quick. I'll read public comment on behalf of the secretary.
Okay, thank you.
MCAG received one public comment on the closed session item. It reads, Ms. Hayden, I would request this letter in its entirety be read immediately preceding the closed session item identified as conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, California Government Code 54956.2 subparagraph B2, one matter at the May 21st MCAG meeting. This is a joint letter submitted by the city attorneys for Atwater, Merced, and Los Banos. You have recently informed us that our city's board representatives will not be able to participate due to a conflict of interest in any closed session discussion concerning MCAG's response to our city's collective demand to meet and confer under the MCAG JPA. The city of Atwater, Merced, and Los Banos strenuously object to this position. First, MCAG as a joint powers and interagency body is designed to facilitate and foster diverse viewpoints among the represented agencies. Second, the mayors have no personal or financial conflicts of interest, and the only potential, quote, conflicts, unquote, would be they may take a policy position as a board member representative of their cities that would be adverse or inconvenient to the other representatives on the board. Policy disagreements are not conflicts of interest. The MCAG board, including all city representatives, should not be precluded from discussions concerning whether MCAG should meet and confer. Accordingly, we are requesting that this matter not be discussed without all MCAG board members being allowed to participate. That is from Frank Splendorio, city attorney for the city of Atwater, and is copied to Phaedra Norton, city attorney for the city of Merced, and Bill Vaughn, city attorney for the city of Los Banos. Moving back to the closed session item 3, that item, which was to discuss anticipated litigation resulting from a request submitted by the cities of Merced, Los Banos, and Atwater to meet and confer under the arbitration provision of the MCAG Joint Powers Agreement, is canceled.
Okay, we'll cancel this meeting and re-adjourn at the regular scheduled meeting at 3 p.m.
Director McDaniel,
Yes.
this is Mike Murphy. Doesn't the board decide whether to cancel an item?
In this case, Director Murphy, if I may answer your question, in this case, since the item is specifically to consult with legal counsel, when in legal counsel's opinion, it is in the interest of the board to do so, I do not believe that that is the case in this situation. The item was placed on the agenda at my request and is being removed at my request.
Right. I understand it's a request, but it's not council's decision. Even to put it on the agenda, I mean, it was a request to put it on the agenda. It's a request to take it off. I've never seen anything like that where, I mean, it's a board decision what to do with our agenda.
I can tell you that if we adjourn into closed session, I will not be able to discuss the agendized item.
And so that was the reason we were going into closed session. So if we can't have a closed session, then we'll go ahead and re-adjourn to the regular scheduled meeting at 3 p.m.
Was there a roll call? I didn't hear a roll call for this meeting either.
No, because the roll call happens at the regular meeting time at 3 p.m.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would concur with Member Murphy's comment that we should be voting and calling for a roll call vote to not hold this closed session agenda item since it was scheduled.
So is that a motion, Mr. Volta?
It is.
Okay, a motion to end the meeting. Is there a second?
I don't think that was a motion to end. What was your motion, Mike?
My motion was Mike, help me out with this. Is it to not hold the closed session?
I think it's to hold the closed session.
To hold the closed session.
I mean, someone has to. I think we hold it unless someone votes, unless someone puts forward a motion to not do it. I mean,
okay.
The status quo is that it's been agendized and it's, we're here for a closed session meeting and.
Okay.
I mean,
So I rephrase my motion. Okay.
The three folks who are trying to take us into force mitigation are present. And so we can't openly discuss our decisions on moving in that direction with you three in the meeting.
But we don't know that, Chairman, to be polite. We don't really know that, and this meeting was scheduled as Mayor Murphy, or as Member Murphy said, and then all of a sudden it's canceled. And first we were told that the three of us could not attend, and now all of a sudden it's canceled.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So I would make a motion.
What the discussion was about.
Okay. So
I'm sorry. What's that?
What's that?
There was some crosstalk. I couldn't hear what Director McDaniel was saying.
Go ahead, Director McDaniel.
You guys are claiming you don't know what the discussion's about. That's what Villalta just said, but I disagree with that.
No, we do because we do know what it's about. Emily sent a letter saying that there was going to be a discussion at this meeting and that we couldn't be a part of it. So we know what the discussion is about. Emily told us.
Well, then don't claim that you don't know about it.
I'm not saying
I
that.
I haven't said that.
Mr. Villalta did.
No. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. It says now you're telling us that that there's not going to be a meeting. Basically,
it won't be a closed session item, is what I'm saying.
Okay. We're still going to meet and confirm.
I'm adjourning the closed session and moving into regular meeting at 3 p.m.
Okay, I'm asking that we have a roll call vote to hold the closed session. That's my motion.
Well, I view it a little bit differently. I think that we don't have to have a motion. I think that there has to be a motion not to hold it.
Okay, do you want to rephrase that and I'll agree with it?
Well, I'm just stating that we're here for a meeting that's been agendized, and if the board collectively wants to cancel it, I think that's the board's decision. But it truly is a board decision. It's not a staff decision on how the board meeting runs.
Okay, Mayor Murphy, would you make that revised the motion?
Well, it's not a motion. It's just, I mean, it's an objection.
Okay, an objection.
We're gonna get,
all right.
Yeah, I just want to state it on the record. I mean, if we're going to adjourn, that's fine, but there needs to be, if we're not going to hear this item, then we need to vote on that. That's what's been agendized for. So. Is someone making a motion to not have the meeting?
So what is the pleasure of the board?
I mean, my viewpoint is we should have a meeting.
So is mine. I vote yes.
There's no vote.
Well, I'm giving you my opinion. It's a yes.
I will reiterate again, this is Emily Hayden. I will reiterate again, just for the board's edification. If we do adjourn into closed session, I will not be able to have a discussion with the board regarding this issue, the issue that was agendized.
So then what's the point of the closed session? I don't understand. If you can't discuss it, am I still on mute?
No, you're on.
No, you're on.
Good question.
If we can't discuss it and we have a closed session, then what's the point of having the closed session? Just to say we can't discuss it?
Basically.
Okay, then I move to adjourn the closed session so that I can get back to Doss Palace, because I'm sitting in front of Starbucks and I have 40 pounds of tri-tip thawing out in my car.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Another,
I have a second.
Just
Call for the-
okay. Just discussion on the motion.
Sure.
So, I mean, another alternative is if you guys want to have the meeting, you could give direction to exclude Merced, Outwater, and Los Banos. If that's the board's direction, then you can give direction to do that. Proceed with your meeting.
April, do you want to amend your motion?
I already did. I moved to adjourn this, let's say at a later date.
You want to name the date? Our next meeting is June 18th.
Okay, yeah, June 18th.
Well,
The second
respectfully, this,
motion, do you agree with that on your, as the second motion maker?
I agree with it. I think we need to, next time we meet on this, have all this crap taken care of. So we don't have to go through 5 minutes of discussion on whether to have a meeting or not.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
discussion on the amended motion.
Okay,
Well, respectfully, pushing this off another month is not going to be helpful to the process. This has been an issue that's been in the works for quite some time. There's been a letter that's been shared ahead of time, ahead of the meeting regarding this. And so, I mean, there's only a request to meet and confer. And I think if there was not even a willingness by this board to discuss having a meet and confer, I think that's bad faith.
okay, roll call vote.
Director Aguilar,
No.
Director Creighton,
No.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
What am I agreeing on?
Your motion.
Oh, yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
No.
Director Oliveira,
Yes.
Director Pereira, Director Pereira,
Sorry about that. I was still muted. Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Vialta,
No.
motion passes.
We will re-adjourn our meeting at the regular scheduled time at 3 p.m. via Zoom.
Okay, so I just want to let you know that if I don't get there in time, I'll be a little late.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna drive as fast as I can to get home.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Go get a ticket.
I probably will because my phone is dead. So and if I can't find a Starbucks, I'm not gonna go. So okay, bye.
Board. It is Thursday, May 21st, 2020. And at this time, we will go ahead and do a roll call.
Director Aguilar,
Present.
Director Creighton,
Here.
Director Espinoza,
Present.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr,
Here.
Director Murphy.
Here.
Director Oliveira,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Here.
Director Silvera,
Present.
Director Villalta,
Here.
Chair McDaniel.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll move on to item number 5 under the regular meeting, approval of the agenda.
Oh, what do we have as
Mi-
balance?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Stacy Guzman. I have 2 requests to make when considering the order of the agenda today.
Okay.
The first is for items 13D and E. Those are on the consent agenda. Both are Measure V regional funding agreements for City of Merced sponsored projects. And we received word from the staff from the City of Merced that the process has been that the city executes the agreement first, and it was on their agenda, but it had been delayed and would be on a June agenda. So staff is requesting that we pull those items and bring them back when we receive the locally executed copies. We anticipate that to be in June. So that's one request. The second
Do
is
we have to have,
is that if we could consider pulling the RWA agenda, so those are items 19, 20, and 21, to follow the MCAG agenda, which would effectively become the new 15. So to fall before the transit agenda, that would accommodate the discussion on several critical items that are pertinent to the city of Los Banos. And as you heard before the meeting started, Director Villalta has shared a conflict that he has. So those would be the 2 requests that I would make of the board to consider before approving the agenda.
So moving 19, 20, and 21 up.
Yep, it's essentially flipping the RWA agenda and the transit agenda. So we would stay true on MCAG through item 14, and then we'd go to RWA, and then we'd come back to transit.
Mr. Chair, Director Silvera, my motion to approve the agenda with the stated changes by the Executive Director.
Second, Lohr.
So I have a first and a second. Can we call for the vote?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta,
Yes, and thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
Motion passes. There was no closed session, so we'll move on to item number 7, public comment. Is there anybody who would like to comment from the public on any items that this board oversees?
Mr. Chair, we did not receive any public comment for any items on the regular meeting agenda before the noon deadline.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move on from number 7 to item number 8. the minutes. This is an action item.
Chair, Director Silvera, motion to approve.
I have a motion. And was that a second by Laura?
Yes.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to item number 9, quarterly financial reports. Nav Bragi, information only.
Thank you, Chairman McDaniel. This report summarizes the overall financial position for the third quarter for MCAG, TJPA, RWA, and Measure B. MCAG, the third quarter, the 3 quarters through the fiscal year, MCAG total revenues are at 62% of projection, and then the total expenditures are 61% of the projection. 93% of all revenues are received on a reimbursement basis. As a result, revenues received to date is lower than what was budgeted due to the delay in expenditures associated with personnel vacancies, transportation studies, and security improvements. Professional services are lower due to the delay in the transportation studies that are scheduled to be completed in fiscal year 2021. The fixed asset expenditure is lower as well due to the security improvement of the front reception area. We just got a confirmation from the contractor that they will be starting on the project on May 28th. The project will be, it will take 40 days to construct, 40 business days to complete. Measure B, as of February sales tax receipts, Measure B is at 89%, which is about $13.3 million. TJPA has received 34% of its revenues as of March 31st and has spent 57% of its expenditures. Revenues are down due to fundings that have not been received. As of the third quarter, TJPA got its first quarter allocations for STA and the first quarter and second quarter of LTF. TJPA has not received any FTA allocation as of the reporting period. Moving on to the expenditures, TJPA has not received February's or March invoice from the outgoing contractor for the services that were provided for that period. Fuel cost is lower than the budget due to savings on fuel on-site fueling and the stable fuel prices. Moving on to RWA. Revenues are higher than what was projected for this point in the fiscal year. RWA is at 91% of its total budget revenue. The expenditures are lower than the budget amount. The RWA bond payment is scheduled to be paid in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year, but our professional service are slightly higher than budgeted due to start of multiple projects. These costs are not evenly distributed throughout the year, but rather are tied to specific project timelines. That concludes the quarterly update. Any questions?
Thank you, Nav. Are there any questions for Nav regarding this quarterly financial report?
Mr. Chair, I have one question. Nav, if you go back to the first page under legal services.
Yes, the formula is incorrect.
Okay, because I know that can't be 94%.
Correct. Yes.
100.
Yes. It was
okay.
Incorrect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Nav? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next section. Thank you, Nav. Merced County Association of Governments, item number 10, Caltrans report. Tom Dumas.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'll try to make this short and sweet as always. We're starting an update of the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan. We expect that to get underway and complete next March 2021. And that's where we go through and identify the projects for the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, the ITIP. So that'll be underway. Another issue, we have issued the draft SB 743 Transportation Impacts Analysis. That's gone out for everyone to review and comment on. We expect the document to go through and be approved in June of 2020, June 15th, sorry. Caltrans also was one of the first to receive the FTA's coronavirus relief funds, the CARE Act funds for 5311 rural transit systems. They received approximately $30 million, and headquarters is in the process of figuring out how to allocate those out. Soon we should be able to help out YARTS is one of our main keys here. I know that we've been working with them in headquarters and all the 5311 recipients, but I know that was of a concern for everybody. We also have started doing temporary operation of food trucks at the rest areas to help out the truckers and the motorists during this COVID time, because the semi trucks and large vehicles can't get through a normal drive-through at their McDonald's. So we've allowed a couple of those in the rest areas. And those permits will be valid through June 15th. I expect if this continues, they'll extend those permits, but I haven't heard anything officially. We still haven't heard from headquarters on the award of the 2021 Sustainable Communities Planning Grants. My understanding, they should be out soon. And when they do, if you have any questions, please give me or Hilda a call. But we'll be reaching out to all the applicants and letting them know their awards. Also this month was the 30th annual memorial for the fallen workers for Caltrans. There's been 189 workers that have lost their lives trying to keep everyone safe. And we just wanted to take a moment to remember them. And it wasn't a public ceremony like it was in the past, but they did go through and do the ceremony for them and honor them. And last news is Ken Baxter has turned in his retirement papers, and as of the end of June will no longer be at Caltrans after 41 years of state service.
Oh no.
Yes. It's with a heavy heart that he told us, and for those of us that are close to him, we're going to miss him a lot. You know, I've worked with him for nearly 20 years. He's been a mentor and a great teacher for me and for all the other staff, and he's surely going to be missed. But I've sometimes questioned his sanity for staying around 41 years, but he's finally decided it was a good time to pull the plug, and he's going to go off and be a full-time teacher at for college, and a grandpa. He's got a couple of granddaughters he's going to play with more. So we wish him the best. But other than that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, Tom. And please give Ken Baxter, this is Darren McDaniel. Please tell Ken I congratulate him on this retirement. He's been a big help for me through many years of Caltrans stuff. So he is much appreciated. Are there any other questions for Tom?
Director Espinoza here.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Dumas. Thank you. I give my best to Ken Baxter as well, and best wishes on his retirement. Also, too, the question regarding Highway 140 in Plainsburg. Can you please, if I can get an update on the crossing there, if there's been any other surveys done on the crossing for a potential light there. If I get an update from you or Dan McHaney, please, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure will. Actually, that's is on a letter that we're working on with Dan, and that update will be out shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions for Tom?
Mr. Chair, this is Stacy.
Yes.
If I could, I just want to just publicly say thank you to Tom and District 10, but Tom in particular. He had mentioned some of the, the time sensitivities and the challenges around drawing down some of, one, knowing if we were getting funding, and then drawing down some of the CARES Act funding. And Tom really went above and beyond to help us get answers as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to just share with the board that he's been instrumental in that, and we all appreciate it. So thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Anytime I can be a pain to headquarters, just let me know.
And Tom, being on the YARTS board, it is much appreciated. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions or comments, thank you, Tom, very much. We'll go ahead and move on to item 11, with information and discussion only. This is an information item. Everybody had all this information in your packet. Are there any comments or questions regarding this information? Okay, seeing
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I do have one question regarding hold on, let me look at it, Darren. F on the Measure V local funding allocation formula on page 50 in the report. I guess I'm trying to understand how and this is maybe it's if you look at the $15 million based upon a $15 million program revenue, if you look at the county of Merced, we would see, oh, never mind. I answered my own question. Sorry. Never mind. Thank you.
All right. We enjoy it when you think out loud.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding item 11, A through H? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item 12, transportation planning and Measure V updates. This is information only. Mr. Matt Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to reiterate a couple things that Stacy sent out in her email. The most notable things are that the CMAQ application deadline is June 3rd. So member agencies have until June 3rd to submit their CMAQ applications. So we're looking forward to a good set of those. And then the evaluation committee will meet in June and recommend projects to this board for action. And then also that we have a few vacancies on the Measure V Citizens Oversight Committee. So there's 3 at-large positions, and then also representatives from Gustine and Merced. So if you know anybody who might like to do that, just let us have them contact us. And that's it. And if you have any questions on anything that's going on, I could answer those for you.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Matt regarding this Measure V update? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 13, which is our consent agenda. This is an action item. This is A through G, and don't forget we have already pulled D and E.
Move to approve, Lohr.
I have a motion.
Second, Olivera.
And a second. Are there any further comments on these items on the consent agenda?
Oh, shit.
Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Well, hang on just a second.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Oh,
Director Villalta,
Yes, that was better than Mr. Silvero's last comment.
Director
thank you.
Director McDaniel's computer went crazy. It scared me.
Yeah, yeah, and it would, yeah, all right. And then the overpass, it just takes too much.
Hey, Lloyd, you might want to mute your mic. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 14, authorized contract for sales tax monitoring. This is an action item. Nav Bragi.
Thank you, Chair McDaniels. This is to obtain financial management services for Measure B sales tax to ensure all revenues generated through the sales tax are received, as well as forecasting future revenues. Currently, the county, the city of Merced, and the city of Livingston are working with HDL for the sales tax revenue audit and forecasting. The proposed agreement for this service involves an annual fee of $9,600 plus a 25% fee associated with any new transactions or use tax revenue that is recovered by HDL. This is a one-time fee for the new revenue recovered. The contract amount for this service is for 2 years with 2 one-year options not to exceed $38,400. Staff is also seeking approval of not to exceed $50,000 for any sales tax that isn't reported and recovered by HDL. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Nav regarding item 14? Seeing none, this is an action item. What is the pleasure of the board? Was that Joe?
Paul.
Second by Murphy.
So I have a first and a second. First by Director Creighton, second by Director Murphy. Is there any further discussion on this item? Call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. At this time, by the earlier vote, we'll go ahead and move the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority to the next item. So this will be item 19, Merced Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update information only. Eric Zetz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna try to pull up my screen now. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Sorry, Eric. We're messing with
It's all right.
Try again, Eric.
It's working now. Great job. You guys are awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so first thing I have for everyone is our update for the authority. So in the month of April, we have experienced a 30% decline overall in tonnages. This is the month that is the biggest month for us to show the impacts related to COVID-19. So you can see that Highway 59 has gone down significantly, 28%, Billy Wright 35%, combined a 30% overall tonnage decline for the month of April. What that also has done is that we have seen less commercial hauls, but we are seeing a steady flow of private hauls. And so one of the impacts, to the bulky waste cleanups being closed is that we saw more vehicles, more people who are staying at home following the social distancing guidelines are also going to the sites. And so we've seen a significant spike in that. And I know the executive director did provide an update as to we are doing a no wait ticket right now related to COVID-19 and trying to get the lines to move quicker. On Highway 59, we have been trying to tackle a monitoring well, number 45 as it's called, where it has not been compliant with Title 27 California Code of Regulations, Section 20921A2. And so really what that is that it's got to be under 5% methane by volume in exceedances, and 45 has not been compliant with that. And so we, on April 16th, submitted a letter to the LEA with some mitigation measures. And in that letter, we requested an extension to comply with making 45 compliant by May 1st. This update is just to let you know that, we plan to get the state to give us more time so that we can put in some probes, both 500 feet north and south of 45, and then to conduct some sampling. In the draft budget item that I'll be presenting today, we do have a budget line item for if we need to get to, we have to sample east to determine if migration is heading that way. But we're hopeful that our mitigation measures that we submitted to the LEA on the April 16th comes up fruitful. Billy Wright, anaerobic digester. We have been very positive in the conversations that we've had with the contractor at the Monterey Regional Waste Management District facility. The anaerobic digester that is over there is waiting to find a home, and there are many people that are trying to have that anaerobic digester in their backyard. And so we are one of those. We have asked, I have highlighted the next steps on this document. We have asked that the anaerobic digester firm provide us with a proforma that gives us what this cost sharing agreement or what this contract would look like. And so what we will do is once we receive that, we were supposed to get it in this week. It did not. We're hopeful it'll come in next week, but we plan to bring this back to you all, and then we'll provide the merits to what that looks like, and then you all can make a decision on how to move forward with that. But it's a good option, and hopefully it's something that we can have for you to consider. Billy Wright expansion. We did this last week receive Thomas Wilkins Company appraisals on the 200 acres to the west of Billy Wright. Those appraisals, granted we're all working from home, were scanned in and sent late Thursday, early Friday, I believe, to internal staff, including council, to make sure that we go through the appraisals. So we're working through those appraisals now with the hope of bringing back to the board at the next meeting a hopeful decision, as well as the draft budget will include an opportunity for some funding for this purchase. And so also to bring you up to date, the agreement that the authority has for transporting and processing of recyclable materials between the authority and Republic, these are the recyclable materials that go out to Newbie Island. This contract expires August 31 of 2020. This last June 2019, HF&H had come to you all and presented to you an assessment of a compensation increase that the incumbent Republic had provided the authority, I believe, back in March, where they were asking for additional compensation related to the no less than 0.05% contamination on the recyclable commodities being shipped out to China. And so there was a loss of revenue that Republic was feeling. They came in asking for additional compensation. The board in June of 2019 had said, let's live out our contract. We'll take the recommendation by HF&H and just continue the contract with the knowledge that this is probably going to be something that we have to deal with later. And that's where we're at. The expenses that we looked at for what was paid in 2019 totaled $214,000. We are seeing estimates right now. We've had some unsolicited bids given to us that assures us that this number is going to go up. We expect if we hold with the incumbent that we could expect to see a doubling of that number. Current participating jurisdictions rather for this service is the city of Merced, the city of Los Banos, and Merced County. And so the next steps of what we're going to do is we're going to seek the contract calls that we can ask the incumbent for an extension of the existing terms. And so mutually we have to agree to whatever that extension comes to. And so we're hopeful to ask for that extension and then be able to bring that back to you all for a decision. And we're looking for June for that.
Eric, this is Stacy. I just want to chime in and add that we also are, Eric's actually in the works of getting some meetings scheduled with the appropriate leadership, the city managers and the county CAO, to talk about this specifically of the 3 participating jurisdictions. So those conversations are happening as well. So I just wanted to make sure that was part of the discussion.
Thank you, Stacy.
Chairman
Dak?
McDaniels?
Yes.
Yes.
Director Volta, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for moving up this item. I really appreciate it. Eric, I know we had budgeted funds, and I don't want to get into numbers right now, and I won't do that. But the number that we had budgeted for purchase, are we within ballpark? I mean, did we budget enough right now for what we see?
We did, yes.
Oh, fantastic. So that's a good sign. And the next thing that I would ask is next month, then you will be bringing this back for a recommendation. Is that correct, on an action item?
That is my hope, yes.
Okay. And if that's the case, could we also include in the motion, just to be prepared, that that if it goes in a direction with an unfriendly action, that we have in the motion that we could hire also outside counsel if needed?
Yes, the current appraiser, Thomas Wilkins Company, can provide that alternative action and those steps and measures as well. So we will definitely put 2 paths before you, such that we can get both approvals in one setting.
Thank you so much. That concludes my questions.
Thank you, Director Volta. Are there any other questions from any other directors?
Director McDaniel, this is Mike Murphy. Can I ask a question?
Director Murphy.
Eric, it's helpful for me at the city to see the metrics on the tonnage going up and down, but it sounds like there's more cars, but there's more cars coming through the gate, but the tonnage is down overall, especially on the commercial side. Do you have any insight into what sectors that might be or not? I mean, for instance, is it construction waste that's down, or is it restaurant food waste, or do we just not have any visibility into that?
I believe that there are numbers out there nationally for that. For Merced County, I don't have a feeling as to what that looks like. I will say that yes, it is commercial large tonnages that we are seeing a loss in. Specifically, Highway 59 is being hit extremely hard. I believe it is the importation that is really helping Billy Wright right now, because they are not seeing the dip. I know this, we're looking at nearly 1,000 tons of a month at Highway 59 just in the last few weeks, if we continue at the same numbers of lost tonnages. So I believe it is all of those commercial sectors. When I last, I think last board meeting, I was telling you all that it is the housing starts that I'm going to personally follow to see when the housing begins to pick up, because those hammers begin to tell us sooner than later as to how quickly the economy ramps back up. But some of our commercial businesses locally in Merced County, it's going to be hard for them to come back into this in this coming year. It's just going to be hard. So I attribute the losses to be commercial, including food waste loss tonnages.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Murphy. Are there any other questions from the directors?
Chairman McDaniel. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, it's just a comment on that is Eric, thanks for continuing to progress in our expansion of Billy Wright. Is first off, I want to say, and then the next thing that I want to talk about is just more of a comment on what I'm seeing out in the county. Is because our we've had to cancel all of our community cleanup days, that just a tremendous amount of waste being dumped in county right away, and even on private lands. I just saw some pictures a couple days ago where somebody dumped literally 5, I'm going to say, trailer loads of trash in the middle of an almond orchard, and it's just getting out of control. And it's just more of kind of information to let everybody know what we're seeing out there, and hopefully in the coming months we can try to come up with some solutions to help our sheriff's department, who basically our hands are tied. If they don't see them physically dumping it, it's really hard for them to do anything with it. And hopefully we can get creative and find ways to hold people accountable for their trash.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Director Silvera. Yeah, we're seeing it all over in all of our districts out in the county of a lot of dumping going on. Are there any other questions from the directors?
Yes, Chairman McDaniels.
Yes, Director Peralta.
Yes, something, Eric, I got an email, not an email, but a comment from someone that they went out to the Billy Wright dump site. What is the requirement for masks for the employees? Are they wearing them or not? Just so I can get back and let them know what the procedures are.
Yes, so the Scale House employees have been given PPE, and that PPE does include face masks. So they should be wearing them as a part of their PPE, but at the same token, we do have glass separators from the public, where much like if you went to a grocery store, there's the plastic that separates you from them. And so there's that additional protection for our employees and the public. But yes, we'll definitely get the word out to make sure that our employees are following those PPE guidelines.
Oh, thank you. It just helps us out when someone answers, asks a question and then we're all consistent. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Director
This is Lloyd.
Volta. Are there any other comments
this
from
is
the
Lloyd.
directors?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, Eric, have you had conversations with the county of when we might restart the community cleanup days?
Yes, thank you for that question. I have not. I believe that the regular meetings that they've been having on the epidemic, this has been one topic that has not come up just yet. I will follow up though and definitely get back to you, and we'll get back to all of you and let you know of that.
Okay. Yeah, I meant to call our Public Works Director and have that conversation, but I didn't, so.
Well, let me do better than that. I am in a meeting tomorrow with the executive director and also the County of Merced, and so in that meeting, I'll ask the question.
Okay, because from your standpoint, right, there shouldn't be any issue.
I believe there is an issue. It relates with the school district. I believe they were initially going to be using the sites of the school district for their dumping sites and collection sites. And when that stopped, that really put Merced County in a hole. So we do have cleanups that are scheduled, but the problem is that we were kind of skipping through summer. The next one were in the fall. And so I'll work with them to see if we can't re-implement that and see what information I can provide.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Pereira. Yeah, and if we could, Eric, it'd be nice, some of the ones that have been canceled, if we can get those back on the calendar, because I think that's what's resulting in a lot of the dumping out in the unincorporated areas.
Absolutely.
Are there any other directors that have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Eric. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 20, draft operating capital and fleet budget for year 2020-21. This is a presentation by Nav and Eric.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And here we are. Okay, this is Eric. I'm going to be presenting the draft. This is budget for RWA. This is an informational item. Want to just remind folks about the COVID impacts that we've been received: less recyclables, less commercial tonnages, increased private self-hauls, closed material recycling facilities, employees who are sick, overtime wages related to that, revenue decline, community cleanups canceled. We've had those various impacts. And so with COVID-19, we as well, especially given with April, we have looked at our revenue. And even though our revenue has been good for last year, I believe my predecessor and the folks at the sites have done a great job. And so going forward, we are projecting a 12% decline. I'm just going to come out of the gate and say we're going to look at our revenues and project a 12% decline. That is heavily dependent upon factors such as importation and out-of-county customers. Fleet, we're only purchasing one dozer in this fleet budget. You'll see we've got a healthy fleet budget. Capital projects, we're limiting the amount of capital projects that we're pursuing, in part because there's a big, some big movement mid-year that we were expecting to see. And then for staffing, I know the board had approved additional positions mid-year this last year. We are holding off filling in particular. I know we have not filled the scale house, one of the scale house employees. We've got temp staff there, just because we don't know what this revenue loss is going to come into play with the authority. So a budget summary: revenues estimated 12.9, operating expenses 9.1, capital projects 8.1 million is what we're proposing, both new and increases to existing. Staffing, we would be at 42 full-time employees if we had the full staff, but that we're not proposing additional staff. Key expenditures in this budget are the dozer at 1.5 million, the east buffer expansion of 1.5 million with the monitoring well 45 issue that I was telling you about. Billy Wright land purchase. This is the Billy Wright land purchase that we're talking about on the 200 acres. And then also $4 million for Senate Bill 1383, which is the organics waste diversion. The highlights of the RWA budget for cash, where positive cash flow is just over 19 grand. This is indicative of the revenues of 12 million, operating expenses of 9, and then a debt and capital of 3.8. Our capital improvement projects existing on the books, we have $13.7 million worth of projects. We are now this request, this is the 8.1 that you saw on the slide prior, but it is 7.7 because there is about 323,000 of money going back into the fund of savings from existing projects. So that's why that number is there. So total 21 million in capital improvement projects of a fund that's got 27 million in it. And the 6 million available, this is one of the largest available funds that you've seen thus far in the years. But the reason for that is some of the future projects that are going to come to you for a decision mid-year, which I'll speak about. And then fleet budget, the one dozer there. So some key issues and assumptions. This is the 7th consecutive year that the authority has not raised rates for landfill waste. And so in-county tonnage declines for in-county revenue tonnages. We've seen a positive. You know, the COVID-19 hit us March and April. We were at the latter part of our year, and we were really, as Nav had said earlier, we were at 91% of our revenues. So we were really doing well until this came. We're still below pre-recession levels. One of the main issues or assumptions is to maintain emergency funds of 2.5 million, which include a rainy day fund of 2 million, and then 500,000 for environmental impacts, mitigations, or emergencies. And then our revenues are estimated based upon in-county tons and long-term contracts, and also limited short-term disposal agreements. So some of the key debt issues, assumptions that we've got to pay off our existing debt, both bond and long-term care, and avoid additional debt. And you will see that will be challenged mid-year with some of the projects we are going to be facing. But the existing bond that we've got 8 years left on that bond at 2 million a year. And so what's owed right there is 17.6 million. And then we've got closure costs for both Highway 59 and Billy Wright, which once one is paid off, this would then debt snowball roll into the other fund to help cover those costs. So an overall amount owed of $46.7 million. The importation rationale, if we looked at what it costs to maintain the site, to prevent the site from future degradation or migration of gas and things of those nature, we're looking at landfill operations costing 9 million, fleet replacement at about 1.5 million, closure funds 1 million, and then the bond payment at 2 million. So we're looking at about 13.5 million a year is what we would need to cover the site. And these costs obviously don't include future land purchases or major regulatory changes and things like that. So if the goal is 13.5 million a year, and we looked at the in-county tons, and this 235,000 tons a year is a projection of a decline in tonnages. So instead of being at 300,000 plus tons a year for in-county, we're estimating that tonnage to be less than. And so the 235,000 would make it to where we would have to have approximately $57 a ton to make the 13.5 million in-county tonnage revenues. And so for importation, this 200,000 tons is a decline based upon the COVID-19 impacts, where we believe there will be a decline in tonnages. And so The average rate, if we go off of what we've been paying, the $40 a ton, we're expecting hopefully to get about $8 million thereabout from that 200,000, which if these two hold, we should be okay. But for importation, if we took that same number there, to help you better understand this, a scenario without importation, if we look at in-county tons of being 235,000, to get us to 13.5 million, we need to be higher in the per ton tip fee. And there it's approximately $57 a ton in the middle of your screen. In scenario 2 with our importation, that's what the importation begins to bring our in-county per ton tip cost down. And so the revenues associated with the in-county there can be anywhere, from $30 to $40 a ton, giving us anywhere from 7 to 9 million, not having to make up the full 13.5. And then with the importation, we get the additional revenues needed. So we're looking at somewhere, with importation, a revenue stream of $15 to $17 million, which would get us to the goal of 13.5. But without it, it's obvious we've got to make some changes. Our revenue sources in 2020, so as this has closed up, we are looking at $15.7 million of that total. You've got the eastern part of the county coming up with 1.1 million, Livingston 53,000, the west part of the county 868,000, Outwater 700,000, Los Banos almost 1.2 million, Merced almost 2.2 million, Dos Palos 107. And then you've got cash and charge customers. And so this is the revenue sources, but 2020 has been a good year for us behind us. Now, mind you, if that's 15.7, we're looking going forward to 12 million. So we're really looking at some significant
Eric, quick question for you on that.
Yes.
That's like, is Livingston sending some of their trash somewhere else that their number is 53,000?
I think Livingston is Foster Farms.
No, can I answer that, Eric?
Yes, please.
So Livingston is Oswald Dilton, and so what Dilton does is they take it out of county and then they bring it back. And so some of the trash may go out of county, we just don't know. And whatever they bring is what we count towards Livingston. We just don't know how much is actually collected in Livingston. Does that answer the question, Mr. Severo? Yes.
When you have the city of Dos Palos has 107,000 and then Livingston shows up at 53, it just kind of had to be something. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so as Navis said, I think we're seeing the other part of that in some of the cash or charge is where we're capturing that. Revenue. So for 1920, landfill tipping fees and reimbursed services, miscellaneous sales, interest, other income, we came down to $14.6 million in revenue at the very bottom. Based upon reductions, we're looking for 2021 to go down to 12.9. And of course, these projections include some short-term contracts of a little over $2 million. Operating expenses, we're looking for staffing costs. They're about 4.2 to 4.6, subtotal 4 to 4.4. Total operating expenses going from 8.3 to 9 for 1920 and 2021. Now that includes full positions, even those positions that are not currently staffed. For our fleet budget, we are looking at buying a dozer, and I wanted to put on the screen. My predecessors used these pictures before in the past to show you kind of what we're looking at. But the green middle graph shows you, or explanation shows you that we have 4 dozers and 4 compactors. And the 4 dozers are averaging 11 years, and the 4 compactors are averaging 12.8 years. So the site is using the equipment at a very efficient use, but this will be the largest purchase that we do. Capital improvements, increases and decreases. So some changes to some of the projects that we've had. We have increased on the East Buffer gas collection system expansion, the 1.5 million. We really don't know what that east side expansion is going to take. This is the project that is following the gas collection system project and trying to address the gas migration issue. And this needs to be completed before the valley fills. So it's a very important project. The $850,000 for the scale house lane improvement, we got the bids back on this, and when the bid came back in, it came in at the higher end of our engineer's estimate, and so that is the reason for the increase. Plus, the project itself combines three a landscape maintenance component of the project. Increase in the Billy Wright scale house improvement project by $200,000. Based upon the increases that we saw with the Highway 59, we made some adjustments to the Billy Wright scale house. And then we saw some savings in the groundwater well pumps redrill and also in the Highway 59 landfill gas collection system expansion. 231,000 put back into the fund and 92,000 put back in the fund. So some new proposed projects for the fiscal year of 2021 and beyond. It goes without saying that Senate Bill 1383 is going to be a game changer for every jurisdiction. The COVID-19 now changes everything, but it doesn't change the law. And so there's been some movement made at the state to try to petition them to give relief to both public and private as it relates to 1383, Assembly Bill 939, 1826, and 341. We have not seen a response from the state to say that they're going, or Cal Recycle rather, to say that they're going to give relief. And so we are plugging forward with what we believe plan specs and estimates, $750,000. That'll get us started for Highway 59, and then also $1.2 million in the event that we've got to construct some sort of pad. We could be ready to do both in the coming year. For Billy Wright, we are putting $2 million into potential for a processing facility. I will tell you, I'm not certain that the anaerobic digester is going. We may or may not get that, and if we do not, there's a great unknown of what that cost is going to be. And so that is why Billy Wright land expansion for 1383 compliance, $1.5 million. We've got these bases then covered to get the facilities where they need to be for the law. So in summary, the operating and capital expenses are fully funded, no rate increases. Debts are funded and future debts are avoided as of now. Variables that are unknown, obviously economic growth, commercial tonnages coming to the sites, whether or not the board will approve or continue to go with importation to the sites, that is a factor as well. If that is stopped, that will come to you all in here in the summer, and when that comes, that will have a variable impact to the budget. Landfill gas to energy. We are working to have something before you in November on that project, and so if that moves forward, that'll obviously have some unknown. And then the valley fill and its capacity. As we began to handle the gas migration and get regulatory compliance for Highway 59, we can then start moving some of the capital around to make room for the valley fill, which is a win-win for all of us as far as reusing landfill airspace. And then definitely an unknown variable is the unfunded mandates by SB 1383. I have heard that Sacramento spent in the tens of millions of dollars for a 1383 facility just before this COVID hit. And so it's just an unfunded mandate that we're trying to wrap our head around now. And then always environmental mitigations that may come. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions from the directors?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Sure, Mr. Silvera.
Eric, if you go to page 151 in the staff report, and you mentioned that Fleet was only going to be purchasing just a dozer for $1.1 million. So in the staff report reflects that you're also purchasing a trommel for $400,000, a pickup for $40,000, and a tarp deployer for $25,000. So are those included in there, or are those going to be off now?
Excellent point. Thank you for pointing that out. And I misspoke. What I meant to say is the dozer of $1.1 million is the largest capital expense for Fleet. But yes, we are proposing a trommel of $400,000, a full-size pickup of $40,000, and a tarp-o-matic or tarp deployer of $25,000.
Okay. Very good. I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Director Silvera. Are there any other questions? Okay, Eric, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 21. This is an action item, authorized contract for construction of Highway 59 landfill scale addition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an action item, and the requested action is to recommend that the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority Board authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the construction of the Highway 59 landfill scale addition in the amount not to exceed $1,760,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions or further discussions on item number 21?
Supervisor McDaniel?
Yes.
I have one.
Director Creighton, go ahead.
We didn't get to look at the plans on that, and not that I would even know what I was looking at, but when you guys are redoing this, and we're talking about the new traffic with COVID and the customer service experience out there, I use the landfill at 59 quite often. And what are we doing to have a better customer experience? Because when you come back out and you're on the scale, the door of the car or the truck that you're in opens up into the side of the wall. You can't. So are we changing some of the things that were incorrect before you got here?
Yes, Director Creighton, I believe that is the case. I believe that my predecessor had shown the board the plans to this last year. And so what I will do is I will bring that back to you all. And I apologize for not having that for you in this report. But yes, it will add another scale and make it such that individuals, it will extend the length of wait time between the active phase and the scale house, as well as providing rooms and an ability to go around the scales as you enter the site from 50. And to also point out, we have the no wait ticket that we did, we implemented, and I'll just get into that. We implemented a no wait ticket where we had the scale house employees and site supervisors go and pull customers out of the line at the scales where they saw them with a single axle vehicle or a half-ton truck, and they just had something that on the scale, if you're a half-ton weight, it's $19.
Right.
And so there wasn't a need for them to go through the scale. So we began to pull them out and give them a no wait ticket to where they didn't have to go to the scales on either side. And that alleviated a lot of the traffic. And we've been very clear to let the public know that this is a COVID-19 response because of the just increase of vehicle traffic that's come in. And so since doing that, and we just did this, I'd say a week and a half ago, we are now seeing really the lines, two things. I think the lines are going away with that, but I also think the public that came in to use our sites, they've now gotten rid of most of the stuff they intended to get rid of. So I don't know that that's going to continue, but the lines have not been.
No, I'm okay with the lines. I mean, that's good for business and everything. What I'm talking about is just the overall, the scale house itself. I've never seen the plans, and I've only been on for just a year or so. The employees, when you walk up to the window, the way the windows are configured, are you changing all of that, or is it just modification for the 1.7 million? What exact? I don't know what we're doing and not doing. I know there's a lot of comments from the waste haulers I talked to with Allied. They really like some stuff that your staff's done out there, as far as they offer some candy bars and drinks. Sometimes that's the only break these people get when they go through your scale house. So those are good things you're doing out there. Maybe I just wanted to see if you guys were accentuating the positive that you're doing and rectifying some of the negative stuff. That's all I really wanted to know.
Absolutely. It's a great question. And let me just add that, we've been working with Mary Michael and her staff, and they've provided some great options for trying to get the word out to the public and trying to make things better now. And so one of the things that we've incorporated into this scale house project is using and making use of one of our existing conduit lines and running a camera that through this project we can then install that the public would have access to, and so that they could live feed and kind of look into what the scale looks like at the time that they're going to see it. And if they see a line, they can make their decision on whether or not to return to it. For your question on is the scale house itself being upgraded, the answer to that is really no. The scale house itself will stay as it is. The public will see it as it's been. Really, it's the addition of the lanes, the 2 lanes, and then there's a maintenance component to this that is also helping the landscape around it. We've got to knock out a bunch of trees to open it up for the lane to come in. And the plans, like I said, the plans were presented to the board, I believe, last year when this was going forward. I will make sure in the oral report coming in June to have those plans before you. And I would say that the engineering estimate for this project gave us an estimate of anywhere from 1.1 to 1.4. It came in just under 1.5. And so with the construction management and then any type of change orders, that is where you get to the 1.7.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Eric,
Director Creighton.
This is Stacy. I was able to pull the packet of the plans that went out when we put this out to bid. And so that's out there. I can easily distribute that link to the board and including, of course, Director Creighton, but to the whole board if you're interested in seeing those.
Thank you, Stacy. Is there any other questions from the directors or comments? Seeing none, this is an action item.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Oliveira and a second by Silvera. Is that correct?
I think Supervisor Lohr got in before me.
Oh, Supervisor Lohr, you got the second?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Are there further discussions regarding this? Seeing none, I call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton.
No.
Thank you. Director Creighton,
No.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Yes.
Director Pereira, Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta,
Yes.
Chair McDaniel.
Aye. So
Thank you.
Director Pereira has called me on the phone and said his mic is not working, but he's voting aye. Is that acceptable?
I would defer to council.
He is on the phone with you currently, Mr. Chair, and you're representing that he's voting yes.
Hello,
Yes.
this is Lloyd.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I was able to get it back working again. I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we'll go ahead and move back to Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County, item number 15. That's the number 15 is Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update. This is information only. Christine Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. So I wanted to provide you with some information since we last met. First off, I'm excited to announce that we have a new Assistant Transit Manager. Kate Molthen has joined us. She has quite a bit of transit experience coming in from the public sector, private sector, and the educational field. So I'm excited for her to join the team, and she's jumping right in and just helping move things along. Secondly, I wanted to update on ridership. Can you guys see that screen?
Yes.
What can you guys see? Okay, so April 2020 ridership is what I have to share with you. We're still seeing a decrease in ridership in the tune of 67% decrease. And because we're offering the free fares on board, we have combined all fare types to free, and we are no longer charging the Measure B funding. And when you look at it plotted out year over year, so February being shown in blue, March in orange, and April in gray, you see the trend for February and March increasing slowly, and then you see the COVID shelter in place call, and you see the dramatic drop in ridership. And you can see for the month of April, the gray ridership has been pretty stable. People still encouraged to be using transportation for essential services only. And we're monitoring that closely to determine whether, what state and local officials determine to whether we start charging fares again. When we see that increase in ridership, we will definitely take that into consideration to keep our operators and passengers safe. When you look at paratransit and general dial-a-ride, you see also a dramatic decrease in ridership to the tune of 73.26%. We've also had significantly, the paratransit is a reservation-based system, and we've had a pretty significant decrease in the number of calls and reservations that we've scheduled. And the same data is plotted out here on a bar chart, February being the blue, March being in orange, and April being in gray. And then lastly, we've successfully transitioned our contractors from, I'm sorry, not lastly, but we've transitioned our contractor from National Express to First Transit. These are just a few of the pictures that we took on the night of the turnover. It went fairly seamlessly. First Transit has jumped right in and started repairing some of our vehicles that had some deferred maintenance, a lot of suspension issues, and getting things repaired to be in a very safe and operable condition. And then included in your packet is a grant award notification for the TERSIP is the acronym for it, but it's a very competitive federal grant for transit technology for vehicles. And we were funded 3 vehicles in the amount of $3.1 million to purchase 3 electric buses and the associated infrastructure. The grant match for that will be coming from a state grant. So there was no local contribution to this. This is a very competitive grant. I'm very excited that we were able to be awarded this grant amount. It's something that's never been received by Merced County, and it's extremely competitive. I believe there were only 2 or 3 in the state that were funded. So it's a very, very exciting to be one of the recipients of that.
Very good, Christine. So, Christine, this is Chairman McDaniel. I do have a question. I saw how you had it divided up by months, but how was our ridership, say, for April compared to last year, the same month? Are we seeing quite a dip?
Yeah, so overall, so last year in the month of April for 2019, we had 69,000 passengers. And for the month of April in 2020, we had 22,844. So it's a little more than a third decrease.
Wow.
Or, 67% decrease.
Right. How does that affect our fare box?
Well, our fares are currently suspended, and the fare is being paid for by the CARES Act.
Okay.
That's the coronavirus relief funding that we received from the federal government. And Tom from Caltrans indicated that we had received some of that as well.
Right.
That is we are in constant contact with various transit providers throughout the state, transit interest groups, and that is the trend that is going on in transit. It's a measure of safety for operators and passengers It's eliminating the need to handle cash, exchange cash, count cash, deposit cash to the bank. So it's just a lot less exposure for our passengers and our operators. And it is something that is subsidized by the CARES Act funding that we've received.
Thank you very much, Christine. Is there any other comments or questions from the directors? Okay, we'll move on to thank you, Christine. We'll move on to item number 16, the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County Contract Status Report, information item only. And this is Alicia Ochoa Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, directors and everyone on the call. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. I always feel like I'm yelling at my laptop. So I'll let Mary Michael work to get the report up. And while she does that, as summarized in my staff report, just enclosed for your review is information regarding transit contracts that have been previously approved by the board. And the purpose is to show you the status of board approved agreements from when they were approved to when they were closed out. Just waiting for the report to pop up.
Alicia, we're screen sharing with you, so you should be able to pop it up.
Understood. Can you see it now? Mm-hmm.
Press the green screen share button in the bottom middle of your screen.
I clicked on the green share screen.
And then you'll select the PowerPoint or whatever document you'd like to share.
Yes, ma'am.
Here it comes.
And
I can
follow directions. Thank you. So again, the purpose is to show you this so you can see the progress of a contract for better contract management on our end for transparency to you. And so you can see it from the beginning all the way to contract closeout. So I'll just simply go through it. It's just providing you the vendor and the service, the status of where we are with the contract, right? Equipment delivered, services complete. And so when I bring this back to you on a quarterly basis, those that have shown delivered or complete will come off this list. You'll see the start date of when we got into contract or issued a purchase order, the end date, which will also be inclusive of any amendments that we exercised that we were authorized to do so, the contract total that we entered into contract for, and the remaining balance on that contract. This report as of April 28th. The only unique one here is fuel is a commodity. So I noted the fuel as a total paid to date as of April. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Alicia. Directors, do you have any questions for Alicia?
Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. If
Yes,
I just want to point out that we have this only on the agenda once for TJPA today, but this tool is provided in your packet for MCAG as well. And moving forward on a quarterly basis, there'll also be one for RWA. So I'd asked Alicia to kind of walk through the tool today once so you know what you're looking at and why. But it's our intent, and you have it already for MCAG, and then moving forward, you'll have one for each of the agencies on a quarterly basis to help you track, once you take action on authorizing a contract, how we're able to, fulfill that contract, and then what that end of the budget looks like at the conclusion of the contract. So thank you.
Very good. Great information. Very informative snapshot.
And thank you, Stacy.
Are there any other questions from the directors? Okay, thank you, Alicia. Now we'll move on to item number 17, which is fiscal year 1920 budget amendment. This is an action item. Nav Bragi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair McDaniels. Did you guys see the budget amendment PowerPoint or no?
Yes.
Nav, we see the budget, the draft budget PowerPoint, not the amendment.
Yeah, it says it's not allowing me to share the screen.
If you need to, you can probably just pull up
There
the
you go.
packet that has the amended. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, so in late March of 2020, President Trump signed a $2 trillion COVID-19 supplemental CARES Act package that included $25 billion for urban and rural transit across nationwide. For more nationwide, of that, $3.75 billion went to California Transit. Of that $3.75 billion, TJPA was allocated $10.2 million under the Formula FTA Grant 5307 and $592,000 under Formula Grant FTA 5311. The language in the bill states that all expenditures after January 2020 are eligible for CARES Act funds. As Christine mentioned, we are amending this budget so we can utilize these funds. Staff is requesting to amend the current year budget to utilize the CARES Act fund. Staff is proposing to use $5 million of the CARES Act fund to offset the loss of revenue of the STA, and fare box. Staff is also seeking approval to defer the remaining $3.9 million of estimated LTF to fiscal year 2021. Staff is requesting to amend the capital project budget to include the purchase of 2 utility trucks in the amount not to exceed $100,000. The CARES Act fund will be used to purchase these vehicles. So in conclusion, staff is seeking board approval to amend the current year's fiscal year budget to incorporate the CARES Act fund and carry forward the remaining estimated LTF balance to fiscal year 2021, and to utilize the CARES fund to purchase the utilities and vehicles in the amount not to exceed $100,000. Any questions?
Thank you, Nav. Directors, do you have any questions?
Nav, this is Silvera. Nav, what is the nexus that we're able to use CARES Act funding to purchase utility vehicles?
So currently our vehicles are not, they're not equipped to do certain things. Like we just have a generic pickup. Whereas if we get a utility truck, we can start locking or storing stuff for like caring for our bus maintenance on site, or also utilizing like cleaning products or sanitizing bus stops. Right now we just have a pickup which has no compartments to house these sanitary equipment.
Oh,
perfect. Thank you.
So we'll be taking A and B together in this action item. Are there any more questions for Nav? Okay, this is an action item. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve, Laura.
Second, Olivera.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there further comments? If not, we'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta, motion carries unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item 18. This is the draft operating and capital budget for year 2020-21 presentation item. This is for information only. This is for Nav and Christine.
Mr. Chair, we're really going to mix things up. This is Stacy. I'm going to kind of introduce the budget quickly before, well, attempt to do it quickly before I turn it over to Christine as we get this up. Okay. So before I turn it over to Nav and Christine to talk about our proposed budget for the coming year, I wanted to first address how the current COVID-19 pandemic has and looks to be able to continue to impact our budget moving forward. So as you recall, last month, we included a draft budget in as an FYI, and it was a budget that we had prepared earlier in the year before we really knew what we were dealing with the coronavirus. And at that time, as we were starting to really come to terms with these impacts, we decided we wanted to wait and see. We needed to wait and see what these real projections were going to look like in terms of lost revenue. And we wanted to bring back kind of a more realistic draft budget, I'll say, taking into account the COVID impacts, because so many of the so many of the TJPA revenue sources are impacted by the health of the economy. So now, here we are a month later, as we know with COVID, things seem to be changing on a daily, if not every other week basis. We're prepared to unveil kind of what we can see we can do in the coming year. So we anticipated, and we do see, increases in operational costs due to the response measures that we've put in place as we follow these ever-evolving guidelines around disinfecting our vehicles and social distancing. And as we anticipated, we are seeing that immediate loss in our revenue around farebox, which Christine talked about, ridership, because this farebox is essentially, what a passenger pays to be to ride the bus. And we're starting to get a handle on really what we're looking at in terms of the longer term projected losses around our other revenue sources that are derived from sales tax and, the sale of diesel and whatnot. So all of that's just to say that, like everyone else, we know we're facing funding uncertainties, not just into the coming fiscal year, but beyond. However, why I wanted to have these few slides to start is that what you want to see is a complete devastation of our transit budget, as we had initially feared was going to happen due to COVID. And that is all about the CARES Act. So Nav has mentioned it. Thank you for the approval of I have no idea where the PowerPoint is going. We now see your desktop, Christine.
We're trying to get a better view of the presentation, Stacy, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. The slide is not important as much as I can keep going for the sake of time. So this is the prelude, I guess. So the CARES Act that was passed by Congress really was what changed the story from what we were preparing to present you to what we're able to present you today. The transit industry was provided revenue fairly quickly, and it was really about preventing the decimation of transit services and to allow services like ours to continue and to provide that critical connectivity for the public and the essential needs in travel. So as Nav mentioned, CARES Act provided TJPA $10.7 million. That's for the current, which thanks to the amendment we just had, we can take care of some immediate needs and also the upcoming fiscal year. It's reimbursement based for costs and lost revenue that are associated with COVID-19. But what's really interesting and why I really wanted to highlight this is that the FTA, I don't know if instructed is the word or suggested, but it's been clear that FTA is saying use this money first because the availability of this money is tied to the federal declaration into the next fiscal year. So there is, we know until, we'll have until December 2020, but if that federal declaration changes, we will only have it up until 2020, December 2020, if that makes sense. So FTA says use this money first and to defer other funding sources as you can into the next fiscal year and beyond if possible. So the purpose of this infusion of funding so soon and in such a magnitude was to, one, prevent that disruption of services by filling in for that immediate lost revenue and to help plan by plugging in the holes of the other areas of revenue that we're expected to lose. And so what you'll see in the strategy in our draft budget that Christine will jump into here in a second is that this CARES funding is going to help us smooth out the impact of the COVID revenue loss over 2 fiscal years. So you'll see that moving forward. So I just wanted to kind of, and if you could go to the next slide, Christine, or whoever's got the control here. That money, the COVID money, while it's a big infusion of dollars, it's offsetting the revenue that we just carried forward into our next budget, and also trying to address the holes of revenue that we're losing. I don't need to go into this into any detail, this chart that you're seeing, but what I wanted to demonstrate was that the percentage of this revenue source as a total of our overall revenue in our budget. So it lists it in the second column, and then in the third column, we identified it as either being mildly impacted by COVID, significantly or severely impacted. So you can see more than half of our revenue is in the significant fund, or the significant category, because of the economic disruption that COVID is causing. And we're saying significant is that 20 to 30% projected reduction. This is exactly what the COVID money is going to help us account for. It's going to push what money we can forward and make up for some of these revenue losses. The CARES funding actually comes in the form of these FTA programs you see that are 35% of our budget. But then you'll also see 2 very severe cases, and those severe funding sources are the fare box, where you just saw we were seeing a 75% reduction, and right now we've suspended fares. We're also projecting a reduction of 40% in the coming year, and also our subsidized programs. And I separated Measure V for a different reason, but the 2 agreements that we have with UC Merced and Merced College, those are voluntary agreements that could go at any time. So those 2, and as you know, the colleges are facing their own challenges. So those I think are very vulnerable sources. And then Measure V, of course, is a smaller part of the budget, but is an important program that we're able to provide the free fares for the seniors, the veterans, the seniors, and the ADA eligible passengers. And then we included the CMAQ funding because it is 1% of our revenue. But it is unlikely for the near term that those dollars would be jeopardized. So I just wanted to show the snapshot that if you looked at everything that was significant to severe, you're in our 60-something% of our budget, and that was really what this the CARES Act is going to help us smooth out over the next 2 fiscal years, so that you're not going to hopefully see a huge disruption in our activities, and it's going to allow us to continue with a couple of really critical capital projects and also maintain our level of service. So, you know me, that was my attempt at brief, I promise, but now I'm going to be quiet and I'll turn it over to Christine to walk you through the details, unless there's any questions about any of what I just said.
So Christine, do you really have anything to add? No.
No, Stacy covered it all. Thank you, Stacy.
It's all in your packet.
Yeah, this is just an action item or information item, so we're good.
Are there any questions from any of the directors for Stacy? Okay, seeing none. Go ahead, Christine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for that introduction and framework for the presentation. So this is your 2021 draft budget, and this has incorporated the amendment to the 1920 budget that NAV just presented. So some of the achievements that we've accomplished in the 1920 fiscal year include $5.7 million in grants for the replacement of our fleet. That includes $2 million for 5 electric buses, not including the one to be provided by the city of Merced. And then the discretionary bus program 5339 gave us $568,000 for 3 cutaways. The transit intercity rail capital program TIRCIP gave us $3.1 million for 3 electric buses. The operations and maintenance contract turnover has been in the works for years. It's super exciting to finally be on the other end of that. You know, that's not something to downplay, because in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, that was one of the most kind of sensitive and complicated situations to maneuver through, but we made it and we did it, and First Transit is, you know, ready to be a great partner over the next 5 years. Merced College Student Transit Pass Program. Prior to COVID, the ridership was exponentially increasing. Students were using that. We saw a major increase in ridership from college students. It wasn't just an offset from people that were already riding. So with that, we are working with Merced College to extend that program into a pilot over the next year, just to determine whether there's potential for some long-term agreement. Measure V ridership, we have been able to track it by ridership type prior to the pandemic. So that will give us a lot more information as to who is riding and where they are going. Safety enhancements and much needed repairs to fleet were also conducted this fiscal year. And that was to extend the life of our vehicles until we were able to secure some of the grants that were mentioned just above that.
I called Layla back. She goes, oh, she goes, Ricardo said he's on his way. So then I saw Ricardo show up.
Lloyd, you're unmuted.
Lloyd, you might want to mute.
Okay.
I'm muted now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So the 2021 draft budget summary includes some projected revenue losses due to COVID-19, as Stacy just alluded to, increase in overall budget by a mere 4% at $737,000. Majority of that being attributed to the increase in cost for our contractor. There are going to be no cost of living increases for transit staff. There maintains a staffing level. There are no new positions being proposed this fiscal year. We currently have 2 vacancies, one has been reduced to a lower range position to assist with some of that, over the administrative costs. And priorities include the replacement of aging fleet and capital projects to address some of the lasting impacts of COVID-19. And I'm not sure the level of familiarity with the life of a vehicle, but there are FTA standards that allow vehicles to operate anywhere between 7 to 12 years of useful life, complemented with a certain number of miles. So we have an aging fleet that has reached a lot of those different thresholds. So operating revenue, I'm going to go over just some of the points here, and then I'll walk you through the table on the right. So operating revenue is encompassing of our CARES Act funding, splitting that between the 2 fiscal years to help with some of the long-term revenue loss. The funding is available to be spent through December 2020, so there's an acceleration to have that offset some of our local funding and other grants that could be used at a later date. State and local funding will cover the second half of the fiscal year. The estimated reductions in funding have been considered within this budget, and further reductions are possible. So when you look at the table here, you'll see the fiscal year 1920 original budget, the amendment that you just approved, and the adjustment to that budget here. Included in this table is the draft fiscal year 2021 budget. Some of the significance you'll see is the carryover of the funding to make it whole in order to continue the operation at a fairly level number. Operating expenditures include a slight increase of 4%. $204,000 of that is an increase in professional services. Those include the electrification plan, which is a mandate by the state to be completed by 2023. It lays the framework for our plan to zero emission, and a microtransit pilot, which would assist in providing more efficient transportation in some of the locations that are a little bit more remote or a little bit more dynamic. That would definitely help cut back on operational costs while providing a better quality service. $450,000 increase in maintenance equipment with the aging fleet. And with the aging fleet, we're able to keep the vehicle in a better condition. $102,000 increase in janitorial expenses and office expenses, so directly related to COVID, increase costs to keep facilities, vehicles cleaned. And 61% of the total expenditures are associated with the operations and maintenance contract with First Transit over our previous contractor. So here you'll see a similar format with the amended budget in fiscal year 1920 and the draft budget proposed to you in 2021, and the increase or decrease resulting in a difference in the total operating expense. And then moving on to the capital side of it, capital key expenditures include the renovation of the administrative building. Funding sources include federal funding 5339 in the amount of $545,000, state of good repair funding at $109,000, and the ability to utilize the CARES Act funding in the amount of $100,000. The administrative building will provide that the space allowance for staff to work in not such close quarters as we are here at the MCAG office. So we're hoping to get that completed as soon as possible. Bus replacement in the amount of $5,588,000. 12 vehicles to be replaced in the upcoming fiscal year, 5 of which are zero-emission buses and the associated charging infrastructure. Funding sources are made up of a variety of state and local funding, as well as FTA funding. And additional capital expenditures include a fare box collection system. This is an account-based fare collection system that allows cashless options for fares. And this is funded with LC Top funding. This fare box collection system will also allow for that extended kind of safety measure where there's a lot less interaction with operators and passengers. It's just kind of a tap-in board system. You know, you can plan your trip a lot easier, so it's just a lot more convenient for our passengers, a lot more of a modern touch on transit. Bus stop installation and improvements to the tune of $650,000. Those stop improvements happening within each of your communities. There will be updates to existing shelters and system bus stop improvements in general. That includes everything from, you know, improving the look of the shelters to improving the area surrounding them. It's critical to reducing flag down stops. This information is going to be led by the short range transit plan, which we're in the middle of getting out to bid. This would provide the 5-year framework for our system and make it a lot more user friendly and easier to understand. And that would be funded with state and local funding. So when you break down the budget, we've broken it down here by each capital expense grouped together by a project. A majority of these have been approved previously by the governing board, with the exception of 2 additional new capital projects. The wash bay for vehicles includes provides the ability to wash the undercarriage of the vehicles. During the vehicle inspections at turnover, we identified that there is just excessive grime and buildup on those vehicles, shortening the life of them and just increasing the cost for maintenance. So that would definitely help extend that life, that useful life, so that we can, you know, have more time to go after grants and get everything lined up to eliminate the need and dependence on local and state funding. Driver compartments improvements. This is something that you see in larger metropolitan areas that provide a bit of a airspace delineation between the driver and the passengers. This would make it a bit more permanent, and we're hoping to be able to implement this over the next year, and we are definitely using the CARES Act funding to provide that improvement. And then everything else here is items that I've mentioned that were previously approved. So going into the capital reserve fund, as you saw, I'm sorry, I'll go back to this page. As you saw here, some of the funding that's going to be making up some of these projects comes from LTF carryover or capital reserve, from some FTA funding, state of good repair, state transit assistance, Measure V, CARES Act, and LC Top. And so when you look at these numbers, you wonder where maybe the LTF funding came from. So we thought it would be good to paint the picture of what that annual allocation set aside has looked like over the past few years. So when you look 13-14, there was a lot of funding set aside for the operations and maintenance facility. It was completed in 2019, and that fund was depleted to pay for that facility. And then the fleet replacement fund, based on the previous approvals for the vehicle replacement, this is the tune of the end of the year balance that we're looking at. My goal over the next year and 2 years is to get these numbers to come down so that we are able to offset some of those costs with additional grants and save that money for some better capital projects or some future fleet replacements. Because when you look at the long-term need for vehicle replacements, you see that we replace 12 in a year, but the next year we need to do 10, we need to do 12 or 11, 17. So the numbers don't stop growing, and as expansion occurs or as the needs grow, as you've seen in our unmet transit needs hearings every year, the fleet needs to accommodate that same need. So the fleet replacement plan is identified as needing anywhere from close to $7 million to $1 million a year. So the building up that fund would be extremely important for the success of TJPA. So with that, that kind of summarizes what we're proposing for the next fiscal year. If there are any questions, then, or want to see any of the tables, I can definitely do that.
Thank you, Christine. I have to say, I think that is the best draft budget for transportation I have ever seen, being on this board.
Thanks.
So thank you very much. Very detailed and lined out very well. Directors, are there any other questions or comments for Christine? See how well that was, Christine?
That was great. I appreciate it.
So then we'll go ahead and move now to other reports. Item number 22, Executive Director's Report. Stacy, do you have anything else to add?
Just very quickly, I want to just say something that I heard Nav mention, but want to highlight it. You all know that we've been working on the front office security project that was going to already be done at this point, but got delayed because of logistical issues and labor issues due to COVID. This is to basically redo our front office area to put the ballistic glass and a controlled access door. So that project is slated to begin the 28th and will be in demolition, and construction will begin shortly, a few days after that. So that is, I wish we could be done already, but that's obviously even more important now as we learn to kind of how do we coexist again, building and with public coming in and out. So that will be an opportunity for us to add an extra layer of protection on top of some of the additional things that we're doing. And I also want to mention, we're working on our return, our plan to come back into what this new environment is going to be. We have, it's not quite, but about half of our staff in some capacity working here out of the office downtown. I'm in the office here at the moment. So we're working on those plans, and when we get it all squared away and some of the extra protections, I'll be sharing those with the board through email, just so you can peruse at your interest.
Stacy, we know you've been going to the office just to get away from your house, so.
Well, I lasted about 4 days of potty training, and then all of a sudden I really needed to be in the office. So Danny is taking care of that now.
So that was the Executive Director's Report. Are there any comments or questions regarding Stacy's report? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to item number 23, which is Director's Report. Is there anybody who would like to report anything? I can go down the roll call list, or if anybody has something to say, they can speak up. Okay, seeing none, our next meeting for the MCAG Governing Board will be held on June 18th, 2020 at 3 p.m. At this time, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for participating.